Focus, and today we're looking at the issue of violence against women in Pakistan. It's rampant, with many women nationwide the victims of rape, domestic violence, burnings, honour killings and other forms of abuse. But the conviction rate is low and women don't always dare to speak up. The authorities in Pakistan's largest state, Punjab, are trying to remedy that. One step being the creation of centres where women can seek medical and psychological help. Taha Siddiqui sent us this report.
Physical, emotional and verbal abuse have been part of Yasmin's daily life for the past 20 years. The perpetrator is her husband. But this time around, she refuses to be silent.
Do you have any marks of violence on your body? Look, I have marks on my arm and shoulder. Does it hurt? It hurts a lot, and I have other wounds on my legs and my back. Okay, I'll take a closer look and then refer you to the police.
This protection centre is the first of its kind in the country, a one-stop shop for victims of violence. Within a few minutes, Yasmin files for divorce and gets psychological help.
What happened?
She also files a complaint of assault against her husband.
In our last argument, my husband told me that if I returned home, he would kill me and throw my body into the river.
Pakistan is the third most dangerous country in the world for women. Honour killings, acid attacks and gang rapes regularly make the headlines. Yet few women dare to denounce their abuser or seek help. This centre wants to change it. They want women to break their silence. More than 200 cases of violence were reported in Punjab in the last 2 months alone.
We have to find artists for the final touches.
We can just talk to someone.
Talk to our PR team, they'll definitely know the right people.
He wants to open 36 centres like this one across Punjab, Pakistan's most populated state, and hopes that the project could then go nationwide.
We decided to come up with this unique opportunity to provide to women victims of violence in Punjab, and with the hope that all around the world this can be replicated because the issues are the same and solution can be same as well, providing justice.
Why do we not talk more about women's rights in Pakistan?
This activist has been fighting for women's rights for the last 40 years. She considers these centres a step in the right direction, but that the battle is far from over. Women in Pakistan often find themselves in a difficult situation once they've left an abusive relationship.
Once they leave home, they are just have to then rebuild their own life, separate from their previous lives. And that's where women do need support, not only legal and psychosocial counseling, but also financial support, Also a support where they could be given some kind of skill development so they can be economically empowered and could live their own life with their own choice.
Another hurdle to be overcome in the country's struggle for women's rights is radical Islam. Here, in this hardline mosque in Islamabad, many are against the construction of female protection centres.
Women should stay at home. Their families should look after them, not these centres. These centres are a bad influence on women and encourage them to go against their families.
But for women trapped in abusive relationships, the centres represent a lifeline. Indispensable in a country where over 70% of women face domestic violence at least once in their lives.
For more on this, I'm joined in the studio by Asif Arif, a lawyer specialising in human rights. Hello, thank you very much indeed for coming in. Now, this report from Punjab, we focused on Punjab because this is a state that introduced a law last year to protect women and to punish abusers. There was a lot of opposition, some people calling the law un-Islamic. Could you tell us a little bit more about how the law stands right now?
Actually, to understand how the law stands right now, you need to go back in the history, because in Pakistan in 1947, when the independence was proclaimed, it was actually the British law who was applicable, and the woman has full rights at this time because the common law was applicable. But then after, when the General Ziaul Haq came into power, he decided to pass this Hudud ordinance. A lot of people who knows Pakistan talk about this because it's the massive Islamization of law through very regressive law considering minorities and women's. And when he passed this law, for example, I will just portray you one very significant example. When a woman was harassed or raped and she went to the court during the Ziaul Haq time, she will be automatically charged with adultery. So you see, the rights of women were out to zero. And now, in 2006, there have been some movement. They tried to pass the Women Protect Bill, which was on the federal level. But this law has been amended by quite a lot of religious leaders sitting in the parliament. I think pretty much backed by the Council of Islamic Ideology. We'll maybe talk about this after, and then this law came in Punjab. But the problem is, this law is very good on paper. It creates a lot of things, a national number, Punjab national number, if I can say. And then there is some centers, women can file a complaint without being charged for anything. They have some rights and the proof, because the main problem is the proof, and the proof has been it's very soft now. It's more smooth as a legal procedure. But the thing is that considering the fact that this law is being voted in Punjab, is a very harsh discrimination against the other states, and particularly.
Could they not just follow suit, though? What do you mean by discrimination against them?
Because by discrimination, I mean other state cannot benefit from this law.
But they could introduce a similar law.
Yeah, they can introduce a similar law, but if they would have, it has been a year now. And maybe they should think about it, because in Sindh you have a lot of problem, in Balochistan you have a lot of problem, and more importantly in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa you have a lot of problem. And we were wondering that Imran Khan, who defined himself as a progressive leader of Pakistan, he might took that into consideration, but he didn't.
But you were saying that everything is all well on paper, at least in Punjab, but even if there's this law, what is perhaps preventing progress is the mentality is not evolving with the law.
Yeah, exactly. The problem in Pakistan, and it's a very vertical problem, because it's a problem with religious minorities or minorities in general, and with women, who can be considered in some way as a minority, because they don't have any rights as the minorities in Pakistan. But the problem is a problem of mindset. You can pass one law and complete it with another law, and amend it and complete it with another. The problem is the paper is here, but the application, because the judges who are going to put into perspective this law, they have their own mindset. People who are in court, they have their own mindset, and more importantly, the social pressure in Pakistan is so high that a woman can be dishonored, let's say, if she tried to do anything in front of court against her husband, or if we can qualify him as a husband, due to the fact that, of course, this law is applicable for violences against women. So
what can be done to change that then, the mentalities and this social pressure?
I think what we can do first is to educate people, because to change the mentality, you need to have a huge investment into education.
You could teach the protection of women at school.
Yeah. Exactly, but when you look at a little bit the budget given to the education, you'll be surprised. There is way more budget given to the army. So actually, do Pakistan need army, or they need to give more education to people? I think I will go for the second solution.
Now, because you mentioned the Council of Islamic Ideology, just a quick word on that. Just how influential are they? You were talking before about laws coming into into existence, but then also being repealed. Has this council managed to then repeal laws before, and so that?
Because the Council of Islamic Ideology, which we can say is a council of non-Muslim, non-Islamic ideology, because the way that they are working, to be honest, is totally un-Islamic, if you know a little bit of Islamic law. But whatsoever, it's not the debate today. But the thing is, this council have a very strength power within the local administration, and what they're trying to do is to raise some popular disagreement against this law, or against the women law, or against the minorities law, in order to put pressure on the government, so the government repeals the law. So it can go through. You know, there is some Down did a very good paper on all this women rights, and they were talking about this member of or a religious leader who were talking about the electronic bracelets, because this law said that if a husband did any violence to his wife, he can have a bracelet, electronic bracelet, so he cannot approach her and everything. So, which is a very good system on the paper, and this. And this religious leader was saying, oh, you see, it's a regression of man rights. He cannot now, the family will be disturbed, and why women, when they commit some crimes, they have no bracelet. So there is a lot of sophism on this argumentation, and they are trying to avoid the question and to try to put this into another perspective. But the thing is what they're doing is just insult to Islam and to every progressive law in Pakistan.
Still a long way to go then. Thank you very much indeed for coming in, Asif Arif. Thank you for your time and your analysis. Thank you for